7 tests before God chooses you. There comes a moment in every believer's life when the weight of waiting feels unbearable, when doors close without explanation, when prayers echo in silence, and when every step forward seems to lead into deeper uncertainty. You've cried, you've questioned, and deep in your heart, you've whispered, "God, why is this happening to me?" But what if the very pain you're walking through isn't punishment, it's preparation? What if the fire that feels like it's breaking you is actually refining you for something far greater than you can see? Before God ever uses a man or woman for his glory, he first shapes them in the shadows. He tests, refines, and purifies, not to destroy, but to strengthen. You see, every calling comes with a cost. Every destiny demands development. And the road to being used by God is not paved with comfort, but with surrender. It's through trials that he builds trust. It's through silence that he teaches faith. It's through heartbreak that he forges compassion. Think of the heroes of Scripture. Abraham waiting decades for a promise. Joseph betrayed and imprisoned before rising to power. Moses wandering in the wilderness before leading a nation. David anointed as king, yet hunted like prey. Each of them carried a divine calling. But before the crown came the cross. Before the mission came the testing. God is not in a hurry. He's more interested in your character than your comfort, more focused on your transformation than your timeline, because he knows if he promotes you before he prepares you, the weight of your calling will crush you. So if you're in a season of waiting, struggle, or silence, take heart. You're not forgotten. You're being formed. The tests you face are not signs of abandonment. They are marks of purpose. Before God uses you, he will test you, not to see if you're worthy, but to shape you into someone who can carry his glory without breaking. And when the refining is done, when the lessons have been learned, you'll stand ready, not just to be used, but to be trusted with his mission. This is the journey of every chosen vessel. The tests are not the end. They are the beginning of a story God is writing through you, one that will reveal his power, his wisdom, and his glory in your life. Number 1. The test of faith, trusting when you don't understand. The first test every chosen servant faces is the test of faith, trusting God when the path ahead makes no sense. It's easy to believe when everything is clear, when prayers are answered quickly, when the road is smooth. But real faith is proven in the dark, in the moments when heaven is silent, when circumstances scream the opposite of God's promises, and when you're asked to step forward without knowing where your foot will land. Faith is not built in comfort. It's forged in confusion. It's in those seasons when you cry out, and nothing seems to change, that God whispers, "Will you still trust me?" Because faith is not about understanding every detail. It's about trusting the heart of the one who leads you. Look at Abraham. God called him to leave everything familiar, his home, his land, his family, and go to a place he would later show him. No map, no timeline, no guarantee, just a promise. "I will make you into a great nation." Abraham obeyed, not because he saw the full picture, but because he believed the one who gave the promise. Then came the hardest moment of all, the command to offer Isaac, the son of promise, as a sacrifice. How do you reconcile that? How do you hold on to faith when God asks for the very thing he gave? Yet Abraham's faith did not waver. He trusted that even if Isaac died, God was still faithful to fulfill his word. That's the kind of faith God is building in you, the kind that believes even when it cannot see. Job knew this test well. He lost everything, his wealth, his children, his health. Yet, through tears and ashes, he declared, "Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him." That's faith refined in fire. Faith that refuses to let go even when it hurts. You might be walking through that kind of season right now. The doors are closed, the answers delayed, the path unclear. But hear this, God has not forgotten you. He is training your heart to believe, not because of what you see, but because of who He is. When the test of faith comes, it will strip away your reliance on feelings, sight, and control. It will teach you to anchor your hope in His character, not your circumstances, because faith isn't believing God can. It's believing He will, even when He doesn't move the way you expect. So if your world feels uncertain, hold on. The darkness is not a sign of His absence. It's the classroom where faith is born. Trust Him in the silence. Believe in the waiting, because when you pass this test, your faith will stand like gold, refined, unshakable, and ready for the next chapter of His plan. Number 2, the test of obedience. Saying yes when it's hard. The second test comes when God asks something that costs you something, that requires more than understanding, more than comfort. The test of obedience is where God measures your surrender. Will you obey when it's painful? Will you follow when it's inconvenient? Will you say yes, even when your heart trembles? Obedience is the proof of love. Jesus said, "If you love me, keep my commandments." It's easy to say we trust God, but true obedience is revealed when His instructions don't make sense. Noah knew this test well. God told him to build an ark before there was ever a sign of rain. Imagine the mockery, the confusion, the questions. Yet Noah obeyed day after day, year after year, simply because God said so. His obedience saved a generation. Abraham also faced it. When God asked him to offer Isaac, Abraham didn't delay, argue, or bargain. He rose early in the morning and went where God led him. That obedience unlocked a blessing that echoed for generations. Sometimes, obedience means walking away from what you want most. Sometimes it means forgiving someone who wounded you deeply. Sometimes it's giving when you feel empty, speaking when you'd rather stay silent, standing firm when the world tells you to bow. Think of Peter, weary from a night of catching nothing. When Jesus told him, "Put out into deep water," it made no sense. Yet Peter obeyed and the nets overflowed. Obedience often precedes breakthrough. This test exposes the heart. It asks, do you trust God's wisdom more than your own desires? Will you let Him lead, even when the road is steep? Many never walk into their calling because they stop at this test. They want the promise without the price, the crown without the cross. But every great move of God begins with a surrendered yes. Your obedience today may not make sense, but it's positioning you for tomorrow's miracle. The same voice that leads you into challenge will lead you into victory. So when God calls you to take a step that scares you, remember this: delayed obedience is disobedience, and partial obedience is still rebellion. Say yes, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, because on the other side of your obedience is a story only God can write. You're not being tested to fail. You're being shaped to fulfill a purpose bigger than yourself. And when you pass the test of obedience, heaven moves, promises unfold, and your life becomes a vessel through which God's glory shines. Number 3, the test of patience. Waiting without losing hope. Before God trusts you with a promise, He will teach you to wait. This is one of the hardest tests, because waiting feels like silence, and silence often feels like abandonment. Yet it's in the waiting room of faith that God shapes the heart to match the destiny. Patience is not passive. It's not sitting still with folded hands. True patience is active trust. It's worshiping while waiting, serving while silent, and believing while barren. It's choosing to stand firm, even when the promise seems delayed. Look at David. He was anointed as king when he was just a shepherd boy, yet he didn't sit on the throne until years later. Between the anointing and the appointing came seasons of running, hiding, and heartbreak. David could have become bitter, but instead, he learned to trust God's timing. The cave became his classroom, The wilderness became his training ground. Or consider Joseph. God gave him dreams of greatness, but before the dream came true, he was betrayed, sold as a slave, and thrown into prison. Every step seemed like moving backward, but in reality, God was positioning him for purpose. The pit and the prison were necessary steps to the palace. Even Abraham had to wait 25 years for Isaac, the child of promise. 25 years of believing, hoping, and holding on to a word that seemed impossible. But God never fails to fulfill what he promises. He simply works according to his perfect timing, not ours. In waiting, God reveals what's in your heart. Will you trust him when there's no visible progress? Will you keep believing when your prayers seem unanswered? Waiting purifies motives. It strips away the desire for quick rewards and builds a love for God himself above all else. Impatience leads to Ishmael, our own solutions that bring sorrow. Patience births Isaac, the miracle born of faith and obedience. Don't rush what God is refining. If he's making you wait, it's because he's preparing you for something you couldn't yet carry. So when the delay feels unbearable, remember, waiting is not wasted time. It's preparation time. God uses waiting to stretch your faith, deepen your dependence, and strengthen your soul. He's not denying you. He's developing you. Hold steady. The promise is coming. Those who wait on the Lord will renew their strength. You may be waiting now, but soon you'll see why the delay was divine. Number 4. The test of character integrity in the hidden places. Before God elevates you publicly, he tests you privately. Character is who you are when no one is watching. It's the quiet choices, the unseen sacrifices, the secret battles that reveal the heart. And it's in the hidden places, where applause is absent and recognition is rare, that God measures your readiness. Talent may open doors, but only character keeps them open. God will not place his power on a heart that cannot handle it, so he refines character first, through temptation, loneliness, disappointment, and obscurity. Think of Joseph again. Before the palace came Potiphar's house. Alone in a foreign land, he was tempted in secret. No one would have known if he compromised. But Joseph said, "How can I do this great wickedness and sin against God?" That moment defined him. Integrity in private prepared him for influence in public. Daniel faced the same test. Far from home, pressured by culture, threatened by kings, he still chose faithfulness. He prayed when it was forbidden, refused the king's food, and honored God behind closed doors. His hidden integrity became the foundation for his public favor. Even David, long before the crown, was faithful with sheep in the wilderness. He killed lions and bears in secret, battles no one saw, so that when Goliath came, his courage was already proven. Your hidden life matters. The way you handle money, temptation, relationships, and words when no one sees is shaping your destiny. God is not impressed by performance. He's drawn to purity. Sometimes he will withhold promotion to protect you from yourself. If your character can't sustain the calling, the weight of blessing will become a burden. That's why he tests your integrity first. This test often feels lonely. You'll wonder if anyone notices your faithfulness. But heaven sees. God is watching the small choices, the honesty in business, the kindness in silence, the humility in success. Don't despise the hidden season. That's where roots grow deep. Before fruit can flourish, the foundation must be strong. When God sees you, can be trusted in private, he'll release you into public purpose. So guard your heart. Walk in truth, even when it costs you. Because when the time comes, God will raise you up, and your character will shine brighter than your crown. Number 5. The test of humility. Laying down pride. Before promotion. Before God can lift you up, he will first bring you low. This isn't punishment, it's preparation. because pride is poison to purpose. A proud heart cannot carry divine assignment. God will not share his glory with anyone, and he cannot use a vessel that seeks to be seen more than to serve. Humility is not thinking less of yourself. It's thinking of yourself less. It's acknowledging that every gift, every talent, every opportunity comes from him. And so, before God entrusts you with influence, he will test whether your heart bows low before his throne. Look at Moses. He grew up in Pharaoh's palace, with power, education, and position. But before God could use him to deliver Israel, he stripped all that away. For 40 years, Moses shepherded sheep in the desert, unseen, unknown, uncelebrated. In the wilderness, God crushed pride and birthed humility. Only then was Moses ready to carry the weight of a nation. Scripture calls him more humble than anyone else on the face of the earth. That humility made him fit for glory. David was also tested. Before he became king, he served under Saul, playing music to soothe the very man who tried to kill him. Instead of taking matters into his own hands, David waited on God's timing. Twice he had the chance to end Saul's life. But humility held his sword back. He said, "I will not touch the Lord's anointed." That restraint revealed a heart that feared God more than it sought power. Even Jesus, the Son of God, modeled humility. Though he was equal with God, he took the form of a servant. He washed feet, touched lepers, and hung on a cross. His path to glory passed through humility. If you feel overlooked, misunderstood, or placed in a lowly season, don't despise it. God is working in the shadows to protect your soul from pride. The wilderness is not rejection. The hidden place is where humility takes root. Pride says, "I deserve more." Humility says, "Lord, whatever you give, I will steward faithfully." Pride demands recognition. Humility rests in God's approval. When you learn to bow before God, you'll stand strong before men. When you choose humility, God himself becomes your defender. For God resists the proud, but gives grace to the humble. And grace is the power that carries you into your calling. So let this test do its work. Let God strip away self-glory. Because only the humble can be trusted with his greatness. Number 6. The test of surrender, letting go of control. Every calling requires surrender. Before God can use you, he must teach you to let go, to release your plans, your timelines, your desires, and your sense of control. Because the will of God can only be fulfilled by those who are willing to say, "Not my will, but yours be done." Surrender is not weakness. It's worship. It's handing over the pen of your life and letting the author write the story his way. It's saying, "Even if I don't understand, I trust that your plan is better than mine." Look at Abraham on Mount Moriah. God asked for Isaac, the promise, the miracle, the treasure of his heart. It made no sense. Yet Abraham obeyed. He built the altar, tied his son, and raised the knife. In that moment, Abraham proved that he loved the giver more than the gift. And at the last second, God intervened, because surrender always unlocks provision. Think of Jesus in Gethsemane. Sweating drops of blood, he faced the cross with trembling, yet he prayed, "Father, if it is possible, let this cup pass from me. Yet not my will, but yours be done." That surrender changed eternity. God will bring you to places where surrender is your only option, where you must release what you love most. The career, the relationship, the dream, the comfort zone, not because he wants to take, but because he wants to transform. When you cling to your own will, you limit what God can do. When you surrender, he multiplies what you place in his hand. Like the boy with 5 loaves and 2 fish, when he gave them up, Jesus turned them into a miracle. Surrender is not a one-time act. It's a lifestyle. Every day, you lay down your plans, your fears, your rights, and say, Jesus, lead me. It's choosing faith over control, trust over understanding. This test may break your heart, but it will also break your chains, because only a surrendered heart can walk in divine authority. Only an empty vessel can be filled with His glory. If you're in a place where God is asking you to let go, do it. The altar is not the end. It's the beginning. What you surrender, He sanctifies. What you release, He redeems. What you give up, He transforms for His purpose. The hands that surrender are the hands He fills. Let go and watch Him do exceedingly more than all you could ask or imagine. Number 7. The test of love, responding with grace in pain. The final, and perhaps most revealing test before God uses you is the test of love. Not love when it's easy, but love when it costs you, when betrayal cuts deep, when misunderstanding stings, when those you served wound you the most. God will test whether your heart can reflect His, because anyone who carries His purpose must also carry His heart. Love is the essence of God's nature. It's the foundation of every calling, the heartbeat of every ministry. Yet, it's also the hardest thing to sustain when you're hurting. It's one thing to love those who are kind, but it's divine to love those who reject, despise, or oppose you. That's the love God is cultivating in you, the kind that overcomes evil with good, that forgives 70 times 7, that prays for enemies while bleeding on the cross. Joseph faced this test, sold by his brothers, forgotten in prison, wronged by those he helped, and yet, when power was in his hands, he chose mercy. He wept, embraced his brothers, and said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." Love triumphed where revenge could have ruled. Jesus lived this test perfectly. He healed the sick who would later shout, "Crucify him." He washed Judas's feet, knowing betrayal was coming. On the cross, with nails in his hands, he whispered, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do." That's love, unshaken by pain. Love that mirrors the heart of God. You cannot represent God if you don't reflect His love. Power without love becomes pride. Influence without compassion becomes control. God is looking for vessels whose hearts beat in rhythm with His tender yet strong, wounded yet willing, broken yet still blessing. This test may come in relationships, in ministry, in rejection, or in seasons of betrayal. You'll have to choose bitterness or forgiveness, resentment or mercy, pride or grace. Passing this test doesn't mean you won't feel pain. It means you choose love anyway. When you respond with love, heaven moves. When you forgive, chains fall. When you bless those who curse you, the enemy loses his grip. Love is not weakness. It's the greatest strength. It is the evidence that Christ truly lives in you. So if you find yourself wounded, misunderstood, or betrayed, remember, God is shaping your heart to resemble His. The greater the calling, the deeper the love required. Let pain become the place where His compassion grows. Let every wound teach you mercy, because when you pass the test of love, you carry something this world cannot resist, the very presence of God. Conclusion: refined for His glory. Every person God has ever used walked through these tests: faith, obedience, patience, character, humility, surrender, and love. Not one of them stepped into purpose without first being purified by fire. You cannot carry God's glory with an untested heart. The refining is not punishment. It is preparation. Abraham was tested so his faith could become a blessing to nations. Joseph was tested so his character could sustain power. David was tested so his heart could reflect the shepherd king. Even Jesus was tested, tempted in the wilderness, tried in the garden, proven on the cross, so that through his obedience, redemption could flow to all. You are no different. The trials you face are not signs of rejection. They are evidence of destiny. God sees what he's placed in you, and he is shaping you into a vessel that can carry it. The waiting, the breaking, the surrender, the pain, all of it is working together for good. One day, you'll look back and understand why certain doors closed, why certain people left, why certain prayers seemed unanswered. You'll see that every test had purpose, every delay had meaning, every wound had redemption. Don't give up in the middle of your refining. Don't mistake the fire for failure. The God who called you is faithful. He will finish what he started. And when you emerge, you'll be stronger, wiser, and ready not just to be used by God, but to reveal his heart to the world. So hold on. Trust the process. The tests are shaping you for triumph. You are being refined, not ruined. You are being prepared for glory. And when the time is right, the God who tested you will release you anointed, purified, and ready to change the world for his name's sake.